There's something quite mystique about the vintage Man in the Moon. And today's DIY, we are going to do this from start to finish. And the great thing is, this is an inkjet transfer. So first we'll need some supplies. Pick you out a round that is suitable for you, and we will have our Mod Podge. And going over this wood placket, this one is a 12-inch, and I purchased it from Target. But Dollar Tree also has the large 12-inch wooden rounds that work perfectly. And you can choose to use white paint as the background, because we'll be distressing this later on. Be sure to sand your wooden round no matter what. And the Man in the Moon transfer that I have here is resizable. This free print, you'll find a link below, as well as including this other Man in the Moon face as well. Using a pencil and placing your print, I have this one printed on an 8x10 sheet landscape. And I used a pencil to mark the top and the bottom of my page. That'll make it easier. Now the great thing is when you print this on an inkjet printer, just a plain print on regular sheet of paper. It does not have to be thick. Matter of fact, you want it to be your regular printer paper. Take your Mod Podge and brush it over the print itself. Make sure you have it turned the way that you want. If you want to do a mirrored image, left, right, or whichever. As you can see, the wink on mine will actually be on the right-hand side, as though he were winking with his right eye. If you want yours the opposite, just mirror the image once you download it, and you can resize this print to any size you like. Large, small, coaster size, you name it. You're only going to apply a thin layer of Mod Podge, just enough to coat your print, and then center it onto your wooden round, just as I have. You're going to make sure that you center it based on if you have hooks or some way that you're going to hang it. And with mine, I had two ways I could hang it. It had a pre-drill as well as a sawtooth hanger on the back of this wooden round. This one is beveled and thick. You're going to trim away any excess paper. We don't want to have to deal with that later once our print has set in to our wooden round. So I'm just trimming away the difference, and then make sure you go back and smooth it over. No bubbles or wrinkles in it. Use a white eraser, that's key. White eraser to remove your pencil mark. That way it will not show up in your finished product. And a white eraser is a handy tool to have in your supply arsenals for all of your do-it-yourself. Now this do-it-yourself Man in the Moon transfer, we need to allow it to dry completely or overnight. So a minimum of about 4 to 6 hours is good and dry, but then you could do overnight and just let it sit. And you're going to dampen and wet the paper and just get it good and wet. And as you can see here, I used a spray bottle to wet mine down. And you're going to begin in a circle motion all about it. And this has been sped up by 4 times because it really only took about 15 minutes or so to remove the paper so that my transfer remained on my wooden round. Now here are some key tips to bear in mind. Number 1, use chalk paint. Do not use acrylic paint. Acrylic paint has a sealer in it that makes it more shiny. Even the matte has a type of sealer. Using the chalk paint, the ink from your inkjet print-off is going to be soaked up into that chalk paint because the Mod Podge is going to allow it to transfer. So it's important to use chalk paint, very key. Number 2, make sure that when you remove the paper, you remove all of it. You don't want to leave any behind. And you can see the purple here is showing up, and that looks really, really good on this vintage Man in the Moon do-it-yourself transfer. So if you want to leave it as it is, that's great, or grab you a black paint marker or blue or whatever color you're going with. To make this truly vintage, we need black. And I'm basically just tracing over the transfer. I'm doing that because I wanted mine to be really sharded and bright in the black so that when I go to distress it, it's really going to pop and look great. And here we go. I have finished tracing it out. So now we need to start distressing it. Tim Holtz Distressing Ink. I'll put an affiliate link down below, but you can find this at Hobby Lobby or online at Amazon.
Hello, it's Elizabeth here. I popped in to ask you, if you have not subscribed to my channel, to please consider. If you enjoy DIYs just like this, be sure to hit the thumbs up. It really helps me out a lot. Thank you so much for watching.
As I begin with the Tim Holtz ink, you see now I'm touching the pad and rubbing it all about. This will give it that moon glow color, but you could also use a gray or even like a periwinkle, like a blue gray. Whatever your perception of vintage or however you want your moon to look, that's what you do. And I really truly wanted those divots and dips and just that texture and dimension that a moon has. And if you feel that you may have overdone it, take you one of the baby wipes and just wipe off the excess. Now, I over-rubbed in the areas where the edges of the paper had touched, and that just worked out perfect because as you see here, I have divots and things that are thinner of paint removed in places on my wooden round. And using the sanding pad gave it even more of that distressed look. But as you can see, it just looks like the man in the moon is kind of lifting off and just kind of popping up more so than the rest of the white that's in the background. And that was perfect. That truly give it that man in the moon look. Now I'm using some inked down black paint that I keep in a bottle and a chippy brush. And I'm going all about this particular wooden round. This one is beveled on the edges. I truly would have preferred a just flat round, but I had this one and I thought I'm going to use it for this project. I think it'll be perfect. And with it hanging up, you can't even tell that it's beveled, even though I put a lot more distress around the outer edges of my wooden round. Be sure to sign your name because this is your creation. And if you traced it, you might have added a thing or two. Be sure to seal it with Mod Podge. When this dries, it will have a matte finish. And we have it here presented, hanging on my living room wall way up high, close to the crown mold, in fact. And it is truly a vintage man in the moon wooden round. And he's sitting there winking at me, and I can see him just across the room from my chair. I know you'll enjoy this. Until the next DIY, this is Elizabeth, and I'll be crafting y'all.